All right, so we are officially live. I want to welcome everybody to the Art of Inevitable Success. And I always forget the subheading, so I'm going to read it because I want you to hear it, and I think it's important. The 5 systems that you need to get in place now to propel you to success as an academic life coach. And these are systems that I did not generally have in place when I first started. And as I think those of you who've been reading all the emails and watching all the videos that I've been sending, I think what you're getting by now is my goal is to help you get up and running with your businesses way faster, way more efficiently, and with less stress than it took me to get my business up and running. And there are a few reasons why I'm passionate about this. One of them is there is such a need for us as academic life coaches out there. And so I would love for you to get your visibility as fast as possible so the folks who need you can find you. So that's one reason. And the other reason is I do have a training coming up, the part 2, the art of launching your biz. And so I'm excited to be of service to all of you, and then to find those of you who are especially ready to start getting on that trampoline. You might see there's a messy trampoline behind me. I'm going to tell you more about that in a little bit. But to start propelling yourself to success on a trampoline. That's the message. That's the metaphor I want to be using today, is the metaphor of the trampoline. And so speaking of that, let me share my screen. So I want you to see this picture that I drew. You can see that it's a notebook right here. Here are the spirals in the notebook, because this is how I was taking notes. This was the very last training of the marketing training program that I did a few years ago now. And I was so inspired by a session that we were having about sustainability in business. And as we were going, I got this image of this trampoline. And what's like with a trampoline, where do you get the most bounce? Like, do you get the most bounce when you bounce on the side of it, or do you get the most bounce when you bounce in the middle of it? And clearly, it's the middle. You get not just the most bounce, but the easiest bounce, right? That's where it's most easeful on your body to get the bounce, and you can jump higher and easier than if you're jumping at other places. And that's what I want to support you all in creating for yourself. And it's what I've finally created for myself now. And I'm so thrilled about it. Although I'm going to stop sharing for 1 minute just to point out, I want to tell you a story about this trampoline before we dive into the 5 systems. So this trampoline, that's a mess, was bought with my first ever profit money. And I'm going to tell you later on, I think this is going to be the final system. Hold on, I told you it was going to be 5 systems. I realized that number's wrong, and we're just going to be covering 4 systems today. I was eager. Maybe I'll think of a 5th system before the end. But the 4th system is about administrative processes and money and bookkeeping processes. And I did not have those in place for the longest time. But when I finally did, I had what I called profit money that was supposed to be spent on something totally fun for myself. And I obsessed about wanting the most expensive mini trampoline that exists out there. It's bungee wrapped, and it's so comfortable on the body. I don't even know why I wanted it, but I wanted it. And so I got it for myself. And I thought it was hilarious that today, when I'm about to talk to you with this metaphor that we're going to be talking about for the next hour about trampolines, that there's a system that I don't have in place right now, which is one for cleaning my whiteboards that I use and putting away my books and my papers. And so they stack up on my trampoline. So anyway, I thought that was just slightly amusing. But anyway, I want your trampolines to not be cluttered, to be nice and clean, and with the ability for you to be able to really take yourself to, as I say in this picture here, to where the sky's the limit for you and your business. And so before we dive into the 4 of the systems I'm going to share, I'm actually going to give you a moment of quiet to imagine, what is it that you're wanting in your business? These question marks that I have here. What is the sky's the limit for you? What does it feel like, or what would it feel like if you had the side income that you want, or the full-time income that you want, if you really could build your idea and your passion into an amazing business, what would that feel like for you? So I'm going to give you about 30 seconds to just drop into that question and see what words come to you. And I'd actually love for you to put those words into the chat box, because I want to hear what inevitable success feels like to you. So if you're willing to take a deep breath with me, we'll have our deep breath take us into 30 seconds of quiet reflection. Great. So inevitable success. What does that look and feel like for you? Our first words are coming in, and Anne says comfortable retirement. Yes. Freedom of location. Yes. Comfort, independence. I love it. Yes. All of those words are there for me too. The comfortable retirement for me is actually being able to put money aside for retirement. For the first 7-8 years of my business, I wasn't saving money for that. So I'm not in a good space for that. So I'm having to make up for lost time myself. But I would love to hear from the rest of you all. What does inevitable success look and feel like for you? I'm going to keep on talking here, but I'd love for you to put it in the chat. And I'm going to come back to it in just a moment. Oh, good. I see Larry put into the Q&A. That's great. Flexibility. Creativity, yes. I imagine that's the feeling of your own creativity, right? That's been something that's really important for me. And adventurousness, absolutely. In this slide right here, you see some of the words that came up for me. Creativity, I had the same one as Larry. Transformation, both transforming my own life and transforming my clients' lives. Joy, love, satisfaction, money, time, playfulness. That playfulness was a big one. I felt when I was a classroom teacher, I didn't feel like I had access to my full playfulness because I was so tired and stressed and trying to keep up all the time. And so my work now, I feel like I have, my playfulness can go wherever it wants to go, including silly doodles and pictures of trampoline stick figures, right? And I feel so grateful for that. So I wanted to look at what the stages of inevitable success are, because business building is slower than we often like to think. And even though I want to make it faster for you, probably it's going to be slower than you like even then. So the first stage of inevitable success is having a few practice clients and getting all of the systems in place, the 4 systems that are in these pies right here. These pies represent them, so we're going to be filling these in today. So getting started with that. It's important to me that you make sure your practice clients pay. And the reason is that I know there are lots of coaching programs out there, especially ones that help prepare you for International Coaches Federation licensure or certification, where at the beginning, when you're doing your practice hours, you don't ask them to pay. And what I've noticed is a problem. A lot of those folks who've gone through those training programs end up coming to me and going through my part 2, The Art of Launching Your Biz, because they find that those clients were happy to work for free, but they couldn't figure out how to have them do the same kind of product or receive the same kind of service for pay. And so they really struggled to get paying clients, but of course that's why they put a lot of money into going to the certification program, right? Well, so that they could get paying clients, and they felt a snag with that. So I find it's important right up to make sure your clients pay, and it's one reason why my entire training program is structured around teaching you business skills first and alongside the coaching skills, so that you are trying it out with the kinds of clients that you're ultimately going to get. And also it's kind of handy to have your newest clients help you pay off the program, so that, you know, by the end of the year, if you've gotten 2 or 3 clients, then it's like, oh, I just got this great training for for free. I mean, obviously not for free, right? But there are a number of good reasons to make sure that your first clients start paying. So that's the first stage. The second stage is then a full practice. And I put full in quotes here because for every person, full looks different. Full for someone who is full-time and leaving their teaching job altogether and has a couple kids still in the house and is a single parent is going to look very different than full for somebody who's retiring and is looking to have some income but doesn't need to support themselves completely with their coaching income. So that's the next stage here. And then the final stage for those who want to is to leverage your time. One-to-one clients, I think it's quite possible, depending on how much you charge, to make up to about $80,000 gross. But I think if you want more than that, you can't do one-to-one clients because your time is limited, and that's when you need to start leveraging it with group programs or products or other creative options there. So the work that I do, I mean, I'm at this place right now, right? I have leveraged my time, but I don't think I'm good enough at this yet to train that. So the trainings that I offer help you start here and help you transition to this stage together. So those are the 3 stages of inevitable success, at least as far as I've seen it in my business. So I'm just checking in quick to the chat before we move on to find some other words. Ooh, Michael, self-sustainability. I love that. Yes. Rose, time and financial freedom. Yes. Wonderful. Marnie, joy, flexibility, pride. Oh, totally. Yeah. As a teacher, I wasn't as proud as consistently of the work that I do as I am now. And then Dominic, satisfaction from assisting struggling students. Absolutely. Yes. And Lindsay said yes, too, to the self-sustainability idea from a practical standpoint, but then also on an emotional level, making an actual impact on the lives of learners. Totally. Being able to have that combination. Yes. And then Larry, this is the last one I see. Larry says, people value what you offer when they pay. Oh, yes, this is a response to me saying to me the point about making sure even your practice clients pay. Yes, they value what you offer, and they generally take up more of your time the less they pay. I think that's true too. And in fact, I think there's somebody on right now, Marnie, I don't know if this is true for you with your client that you have right now is taking up more time, and I don't believe they're paying at this point. And so that what Larry just said might be true for you. And then Marnie also added, great, this is the last point I'll take on this one, but yes, those of us who went into education soon realized that our vision doesn't align with all of the bosses and bosses and bosses and bosses and bosses that we have to work with as educators. That's true. Absolutely. Oh, Danielle, I love your comment though, so I want to say it out loud. Yes, being able to support, at least partially support yourself. Yes, so that you can be gutsy and take chances and don't feel scared of losing your job, that's how I felt back when I was working, and I hated being there, but I felt too scared to fire myself, so to speak. And so the biggest gift that was ever given to me was when the head of school decided that I wasn't a good fit for that particular independent school after all. So yeah, so let's look at this. So the problem when business building is, the problem in achieving that nice bounce on our trampoline, right, is that too many of us have to build the road ourselves while we're also trying to drive on it. I loved this picture when I found it, and I feel it speaks volumes to what was happening for me. I was dragging this road behind me, right, while I was also trying to run on it and have my business and have my first few clients. So when I stopped building the road myself, when I started the marketing training program that I did, I could so just relax and follow the instructions that my coaches were giving me. And this made all the difference in being able to really travel faster and faster and faster down that road, because I wasn't wasting so much energy trying to build it, especially because I didn't even know how to build it, right? I'm not an engineer. That is not my strength. So that made all the difference for me. And so the solution to this problem of building the road yourself is figuring out the systems that you need and putting them into place. As Rich said in one of his videos, I think the videos that you guys saw recently, best practices. What are the best practices that are systems that can be simply put in place? So a definition of a system, I looked this up because I wanted to make sure that I was on to something here, is a step-by-step process, right? And that's what I try to provide in the training program. So you don't have to think about what needs to happen later on in the system. You can look only at the first step, and then the second step, and then the third step. So a step-by-step process that makes it easier to produce. So we're looking for ease here because we don't want stress in our lives. And to produce a consistent, right? We want consistent clients. We want consistent content. We want consistent value and consistent results for our clients. And so there they are, a consistent result or outcome. And so the more we can put systems in place in our business early on, even if they're just baby systems, then those systems can grow and mature over time. And boy, can I speak to the pain, especially my financial systems, of putting those in place too late. And I will not just say the pain, but the expense. I just got an invoice from my bookkeeper today, and because she is having to clean up so much stuff, it's way more expensive than I wish it were. And if I had started with the bookkeeper early on, I wouldn't have had to pay that much every month because my finances would have been very simple and they would have been very clear and clean. So boy, do I regret that piece. So, woo, okay, key number one, let's look at that. Because so each of these keys are systems that I want you thinking about. And the first one is, what are your systems for powerful content? There are three pieces to this. First, you need to have a clear sense of your client's problem. What are they needing to solve that inspires them to reach out to you? And then you need to have specific, proven strategies that repair the problem in some way. Now, as academic coaches, that looks like study skills, time strategies, organization strategies, advocacy strategies. If you're also, the life coach part of that, it's mindset strategies, goal setting strategies. But it's important that you have both of these things, clarity about the problem. And it's actually amazing to me how many people come to me and think they want to do this kind of work, but they're not really clear about what the problems that students and families and teachers are experiencing. So if you think that might be you, I recommend that you do a little research into that prior to fully investing in starting your business. And then making sure that you have even just a few strategies to start with. It's one reason why I started this year with teaching part one, the art of inspiring students to study strategically, because anyone who's gone through that course now has a number of strategies. They've got powerful content that they can start teaching immediately, and that content is organized in a way that is systematized, so even the client, the student, can see the system and it doesn't seem like a bunch of random strategies. The last piece here, your special sauce. I've had, especially the first year that I trained folks, when they came into the training, you could tell they were thinking they needed to become like me. And that is so not what I'm training. I want you to have strategies. I want them to be your proven strategies, although I do offer my own if you feel like that would help you. And then I also want to help you be your unique self, your best self, whatever your special sauce is. That needs to be woven into the mix, because your content isn't powerful unless it represents something that is uniquely you. And so mine has become powerful because I'm a nut, right? Like, I'm this creative, perky, nutty gal who ended up coming up with something called the anti-boring approach to powerful studying. So it absolutely reflects my uniqueness. And I look forward to helping those of you who move forward in my program with me to find your special sauce and integrate that with some of the strategies that I'm teaching. And those of you who don't move forward with me, I still recommend that you spend some time journaling, maybe doing some list making around what are the strategies that you provide, how can those be systematized, And how does your special uniqueness and creativity fit into that? So here are some examples, at least in my understanding of being an academic life coach. So time management strategies, organization strategies, study skills, note-taking. I mentioned self-advocacy already, anxiety and mindset. Oh, good, I mentioned all of this. And then I didn't mention this piece though, inspired action. How do you get people to take inspired action? And that might be the anti-procrastination strategies that I teach. And please don't sacrifice your uniqueness, include it. Oh my goodness, I'm noticing I made a crucial error in some of these slides. I was so excited about reformatting them and I forgot to change the numbers. So this number 4 should still be number 1 and it should still say powerful content system. So I am sorry that that is going to be a little incomplete today. That's what happens when you get a new creative idea last minute. So here are some examples in the folks I've worked with. I mean, here's the anti-boring approach. You see this was an initial picture I created. It's actually expanded since I created this little drawing. But folks who've come through my program at least have wanted to integrate yoga and mindfulness. Some of you have expertise in neuro-linguistic programming that you wanted to incorporate into your academic life coaching. Here's the life coaching component or college consulting component, math strategies. I've had a couple of folks who are really interested in working with nursing students because there's a real specific way of getting prepared for those tests and managing your time as a nursing student to make it. I've had some people who are experts in planners and time management tools. That's their special sauce. And some even who just love the really difficult clients. So whatever it is for you, having a special sauce and having a regular system and maybe even my system can really help launch you more quickly into seeing faster results with your clients and therefore also being able to market yourself better. Larry just commented in the Q&A that what I teach students in K-12 about learning will benefit people for college, higher education, and in career training. Yes, exactly. There are some differences, but most students don't even have a good foundation. Exactly, absolutely. And you know, I hear all the time from people who get my little Wednesday tips that they find them so helpful in their own business environments as well. And I think, Larry, that's part of what I am talking about when I say special sauce. So for me, I also am really great connecting with the older high school and college students. And so I've even stopped taking as many middle school students just because they're not exactly where most of my gifts lie. I'm good with them. I was a middle school teacher, but I find that things feel particularly juicy for me when I'm working with a specific age group. So even though these strategies also work in a variety of age groups, I've chosen to have my niche be the older high school and college students primarily. Okay, good. Key number 2, life-changing service delivery. So I have found that the more systematized I have gotten in how I deliver my services, the more time I save on my own, and the more I am able to take on more clients because I'm not frittering away some of that time with more administration tasks related to the service delivery. So that's why this is the second major key that I'm wanting to share with you today. And what that looks like is that you want systems that help you prioritize connection. That's the first thing. So I know it might seem strange to say that, but it's one of the things that's going to sell you as a coach the most is when clients feel fully connected with you. So back when I was trying to send text messages all the time, I felt crazy. Like I was, even on Saturdays, I was like, okay, I'm prioritizing connection. I need to text my clients because I know they're working on something that day. And it was crazy making for me. But once I found some systems, and here, this is why I said tech tools, for actually scheduling text message check-ins, it was amazing because I could still stay heart connected with my clients, but it didn't have to impinge on my time or infringe on my time as much. So finding these heart-centered desires, like, yeah, I do want to send them a birthday card, or yeah, I do want to, whatever it is you want to do to show your heart connection to them. And then finding the technology tools that enable you to do that in a way that is systematized, so that you have, you have this bigger, more easeful bounce. So that's the first part of service delivery, or systematized service delivery. The second part is making sure that your packages are alluring to your clients, so that they can see that they're going to get the results that you promise. And there is a system for making sure that clients get results. I mean, yeah, we could just show up every session, and just the power of our focus and love for the client would work wonders for sure. But if you can have some other service delivery systems, and I'll show you a slide to show you what I mean in just a moment, you are going to ensure that the results are going to at least be visible, if not be there even more than they would have otherwise. And you will be more profitable because your clients will more quickly, or your potential clients will more quickly sign up for your services, because they see that the packages are smartly designed and are a process, are a system that will get them to where they want to go. So here are some of the systems that I have in place. So tracking progress with the habits graph, we'll look at that in a moment. I have specific systems for keeping students engaged in sessions, because I notice that when I don't ask specific kind of questions or get them to do specific kinds of things actively, their engagement goes down. And I'm especially skilled in helping them stay engaged in online coaching environments. So I know a number of you are interested and curious about that, and that's one thing we'll definitely talk more about in the training, is how to do that. Because I work both on Zoom and in person, there's a lot of flexibility. And actually, a client just today had his session with me, even though he was at a friend's house. There was a snafu, a scheduling snafu with his family. And so I didn't lose money. Back in the day, I would have lost that hourly fee, because he wouldn't have known that there was a way to show up to see me. And so I would have lost that. So that's a really wonderful thing when you have service delivery systems that allow people to show up in lots of different ways: phone, online, in person. I also have a way of communicating easily now with all members of the team. So I'm much more present with teachers than I ever used to be. I'm much more present with the parents than I used to be, because of some of my recording systems and my communicating systems. And those are all things that I do share in the upcoming training, which basically just gives you a window into exactly how I do everything that I do. And I have found that it's really wonderful to be more connected with teachers, especially when, just as an example, I've created a system for helping train the parents to connect me to the teachers early on. I do session summaries in a particular way that provides a lot of relief for parents. And I also have ways of surprising and delighting my clients from time to time. And I wish that that particular piece was more systematized than it is, but I will be building that into my business now more and more, especially now that I have an assistant. I will actually be offloading some of that surprising and delighting eventually to my office team. So I'm sure there are others, but this was the quick brainstorm that I came up with. And here are the examples I wanted to show you. I am a big fan of the Google Doc. So this is a screenshot right here from one of the ways that I take notes that parents have access to. I track habits, and let's see. Oh, actually, this is not the habit tracking chart. This one is the grade tracking chart, because I do both so that students can see how their grades change over time. Like, let's just take a look at Ben right here. Yeah, Earth Science, the week of February 8th, 2016, bam, his grade took a nosedive and just never really recovered, did it? And somehow seeing it in a chart form like this is more powerful to him than just seeing the isolated grade every week on Power School. So that's one reason why I build these service delivery systems in. Here you'll see I have some clients who are just continuously behind, and there's just no way that they will ever be able to keep up with all the work that high school provides. And so part of my job is to help them track all their late work and make sure that they're eventually getting it in, or at least being smart about the late work that they choose not to turn in. And so this is an example of a spreadsheet that I made for one of my clients to help him track both when he finished his work and when he turned in his work. So there are many more of these kinds of systems, but I hope this helps give you a nice visual for how that works. Yeah, we're ready to move on to key number 3 here. So we'll get to that, to the marketing, the steady flow of clients. But I just looked at the time, and I'm aware we've been sitting for half an hour. And so I want to just give you a little bit of a movement break. I didn't come with a fancy one planned this time, but I'm clear that I need one. So if you're willing, those of you out there, feel free to stand up in your space, and we'll do the same one we did last time, just shake out a hand. This is sometimes the quickest and easiest little brain body break there is. Your other hand, and then shake out your leg, and then your other leg, and then your whole body. And I remember your husband came in right at this time last time, and then your voice. Okay, good. And if you're willing to take a deep breath and actually let yourself have an audible sigh, that can be a really helpful thing. Okay, sometimes I close my eyes, but you don't have to close your eyes. And in fact, there's a lot of research that's showing that this sort of workshoppy, new agey thing we do of having people close their eyes when they like tape deep breaths or imagine things is actually not very helpful for the nervous system, because it can put you in a little bit of a trauma state for some people. So that's just a little interesting side note, and actually explains why I get annoyed sometimes when people ask me to close my eyes and do some of that more woo-woo stuff that we sometimes do in California. Just a reminder, as we go here, there will be time for questions at the end, but I will be answering questions as we go here too. So if you want to have your Q&A box open, if it's not already open, that is where I will see your question the most quickly. And there's also the chat, so you can be in either space there. Okay, let us move on to keys number 3 and 4. Okay, this is the one that maybe I've talked about the most in our free course so far, systems for creating a steady flow of clients. And I know it's your anxiety as well, many of you, because as you've been filling out the application forms to have the one-on-one strategy session with me, many of you are talking about the fear of not being able to find clients as being one of the biggest obstacles that you feel like you're facing as you consider whether building your own academic life coaching business is something you want to do. So let's look at the systems that I now have in place that make a big difference for me. The first one is having inspiring language that is results oriented. And the reason I have this under system, it's not just a skill, but so I actually created a special document once I learned what results oriented language looks and sounds like. I actually created this huge chart with the whole anti-boring approach to powerful studying, and I brainstormed a bunch of language that I could use to describe it that is results oriented. And so now whenever I have marketing that I need to write, I can go to that document. There is a system for easily finding language so that I'm not having to write something new every time. Also, I walk, those of you who do take the upcoming course, I walk you through doing something that includes writing a tiny description of your services. So a compelling description that pops in about 3 sentences or so. And then I also walk you through writing a longer description of your services that has certain components in it. And one of the things I discovered as I was interviewing a number of the folks who have graduated from the program the last few years to create those videos for you all, one of the things I heard consistently from them, either in the video or when we were talking before I had turned on the video, was that they're so grateful that they just have to look back at all the marketing language we created together, and they don't have to rewrite stuff every year or every time that they're looking for new clients. So that's one reason why this is the first thing here, having a system for coming up with inspiring language. And then also having a system for having consistent visibility. And this is people's scariest part, right? Being visible, putting yourself out there. I happen to know there's one of you on the call right now who actually is going to be in the program upcoming and has started working through some of the materials because she's been with me for a few months now. And it's been really scary to take the step of becoming more visible and actually sending out this first letter. I don't know if you want to out yourself. You probably know who, who you are. But it's such a scary thing at first. But it can be less scary if the actions for being more visible are simple, if they're strategic so that we're clear that we're getting the most bang for our buck, if they are weekly so that we're developing the habit and the neural pathways for doing it so that our fear doesn't get the best of us, and then also if we can find a way to institute some fun as well. And so the more systematized things can become, the more that we can be really visible in ways that actually feel like they're aligned with our gifts and our personality. And so we don't feel as markety or gross or whatever it is, all the things we're scared of. So I'm passionate actually about helping people find systems in their own life for this. And one of the things people who move on, and I think it's in part 3, The Art of Rocking Your Business, will actually play a Getting Clients game together that has kind of gamified some of these simple, strategic, weekly, and fun tasks that you can do to be more visible. So the last system that actually has worked for me, and it's not one that any of you who are just starting need right now, though I do recommend putting elements of this in place in very simple ways, is becoming a thought leader in your field. So clearly I have become that in mine now. I've had, I don't know, I have more than 100 YouTube videos. I have a podcast. I reach out and collaborate with other folks who are also experts in the field, and we make those videos public, and I'm doing courses like this. So I am a thought leader now. But I wasn't always. However, one thing I did always do is on Facebook, for example, I told little stories from my client sessions, and I would post them. I wish I'd thought to find an example of one, and I'm just thinking of that now. But they would often be formulated like me, colon, and then I would write a question that I asked the client. And then I would put client, comma, 13-year-old boy, colon, and then write what he answered. And usually they'd be funny or poignant, or there would be a discovery involved. And I got really practiced at writing these little stories. And they were just for my Facebook friends. They weren't for more than that, but it wasn't then a far jump from writing little stories on Facebook to making videos of the same things. So it was great to train myself how to reflect, how to find interesting nuggets that were helpful and interesting for other people to hear, and play around with that. And I don't think I would have been as successful with the videos if I hadn't been putting those little systems in place for constant and public and visible reflection on the social media that I was using. Here are some of the systems, and you'll see some of them are overlapping, right? Alluring packages were important in terms of service delivery, because in your packages you think through, what am I offering? But they're also helpful here for getting your clients because they feel inspired by what's in the package. Compelling descriptions, we've talked about that. What I want for you is the never-ending well of clients, which I have now. In fact, I'm a little overwhelmed. It would just have to be the last 2 weeks when I'm doing this course with you and preparing for this upcoming one that I've gotten over, I don't know, 5 or 6 inquiries, which feels like a lot for me to get in a week. And I just don't have time to work with these folks right now. But the joy is that because I have a never-ending well of clients, I can say no to them right now and know that when I do need another client, there will be one available. And that's what I want for you. We've already talked about being able to take continuous marketing actions that are fun and non-salesy. This one is also important. We're going to be looking at in the upcoming training, the systems for getting clients to sign up semester after semester. So how do you move them from having worked with you once to working with you again? And then also systems for developing your unique voice, kind of like the Facebook posts that I was talking about. And I just wanted to note that nowhere here did I say you need to have a website to get a steady flow of clients. So hopefully you read some of the stories about that in the email, and you really get that that is not a necessity. Larry posted in the Q&A that, yeah, some things you can do or contribute to or write articles for LinkedIn in your field. Yep, I've seen people do that. I haven't chosen to do that myself. And actually, Larry, I would even say that that is a wonderful idea, and also, though, intimidating for people who are first starting off. So what I think I'm a specialist in, actually, and it's why I'm such a good academic life coach, and also why I'm such a good trainer of new people who are starting their businesses, is I'm good at helping you find the most incremental action that you can take now that's going to move you forward, building the systems that you need, but not going to be so scary or time consuming that it's going to get in the way of other things. Because I do see when people write articles for their blog or LinkedIn or whatever, that can take hours. And I would rather see them spend those hours making one-to-one relationship connections with the people who actually can provide referrals to them. That's what I'd rather see them doing early on. And then later, when they're willing to leverage or ready to leverage, then to do more of that article writing. I guess I also want to name that if you're love writing and that's a creative outlet for you, then absolutely that's what you should do first. I only wanted to make this little hesitation because I don't want those of you listening here to think, oh my God, now I have to go, do a whole big writing thing, because you don't. You don't. And in fact, Rich, who I think you've met already in one of the videos, got himself 10 academic coaching clients just by really using his past contacts, and email really, really, really well. And so that's sometimes all you need at first. It doesn't work for everybody. Like Rich was by far the most successful of his cohort in terms of getting a lot of clients fast. He also, though, got a lot of clients who were very difficult clients. So that was a learning experience for him in a different way. And then here's an example of actually how I used to spend hours and hours and hours writing my blogs. And I realized that, oh, I'm an engaging video presence. It takes me only 5 minutes to make a video compared to hours of crafting something beautiful and written. So why don't I just do video? And so that was how I took that incremental leap from the Facebook ads into creating the videos, because it was just small enough. It felt like something I could do. I'm not shy on video. It's easy for me. And actually, often when there's work that I don't want to be doing, like maybe emailing a parent or something like that, I'll make a little video first, and it inspires and energizes me. And then I'm happy to do that next thing. So actually, I'm really grateful for the video making that I've been doing. Just want to check in on the chat before we move on to the last little piece. Marnie wants that chart. What chart do you want, Marnie? Winky face. Tell me. And oh, I see that Marnie also posted a while ago, yeah, that she's the one working for free and way more hours than she would with an official client. Yeah. But you also are getting amazing glowing recommendations because you're putting so much time in, and so that is worthwhile. The word chart, I still don't remember. Oh, the word chart. You will be getting access at some point to some of that. Yes. But please do remind me when we're more officially in part 2 about that, because it's been an intention of mine, but I don't know if it's in the materials yet. Okay, yeah. So the question that I want you just to pause and to think about here is, how much energy are you currently draining in terms of trying to build the road, the business building road, while you're also trying to do the service delivery on that road? And I would love to hear in the chat if there are some of you who really identify with this. Even if you're at the very beginning, you can see that you have been expending perhaps more energy than you wish you would, randomly grasping at what the next right actions are in the business building process, and finding that that's getting in the way of full satisfaction in terms of the service delivery, which is where our passions really are, right? So I'd love for you to think about that and to post that on the chart. And just remind you, by now all of you have seen this, and I've got about 10 of you signed up for one-on-one strategy sessions with me. But I'm really happy to spend some time looking at the realities of your situation and helping you reflect, should you start or grow your business? And if you want to sign up for time with me, you can do that with this link right here, tinyurl.com/strategize with Gretchen. And Michael has already, because he's so on it, put it in the chat. But the purpose, what we'll be doing during the session is we'll be looking at your vision for where you want to go. We'll be looking at where you are now and what obstacles might be getting in the way for you. And then we'll also look at whether my training program is a program that is a realistic one for you that would help with those obstacles. And if it looks like my training program might be helpful, and if it also looks like you might be struggling to afford that, I want you to be able to give it to yourself. So we'll do a little brainstorming about how you can make a financially sound decision for yourself, because yeah, I don't want folks coming in putting yourself financially at risk at a time when you're growing your business, because, oh my goodness, that's just another way, right, of draining energy, is when you're doing that kind of a really scary financial risk taking. So please sign up if you haven't done so already. I actually opened up about 4 more slots for next week. I'm going on spring break over Easter weekend, but I'll be back in action next week, and happy to meet with those of you who weren't able to get a slot this week. Oh, Anne, oh my goodness. You say you're feeling very scattered right now and you've worked with 50+ clients already. Oh my goodness, honey. I'm so glad we're going to get to talk on the phone or on Zoom a little bit more about that, because that, I bet you're feeling scattered, and I can see how maybe some systems would be helpful for you at this stage. Also, before we move on to our last point number 4, I want to look at Shelley's comment in the Q&A. Shelley says, I have a blog where I post student success articles and have it set to automatically post them to LinkedIn. Just another visibility ploy. Yep. I write the articles based on what I do with students in one-on-one and live success course coaching. Yep. And that's where my Facebook posts came from too, right? Because often I found that I was really inspired right after a session. And so that's why I would make a video as immediately as possible right after, so that my inspiration would also feed in. And then this is, there are all kinds of online tools that can then send those stories to LinkedIn or to wherever else. But again, I want to say to those of you, especially those of you coming into my program, a lot of you, what I've seen in the past is a lot of people start thinking, okay, I need to get my LinkedIn set up, and I need to get this set up, and I need to do this, and I need to do this, and actually you don't, not at the very beginning. You need to get your referral marketing systems and your relationship building systems with live human beings. You need to get those going first. And once those are starting to move, then you can add some of these other, what my marketing training coach called side dish marketing methods. You can add those later. I just find people's fear is so extreme that they don't want to reach out to individuals. And so it feels easier to do the LinkedIn and all those other things. So I hope that point makes sense. Oh yeah, Lindsay, great question. When using student stories, it's anonymous, but are students aware you're discussing their sessions? Yes. And again, this is another example of a system. I used to feel embarrassed that I was posting that and a little out of integrity because I wasn't telling students. But now I have built into the welcome intake process a special form that those of you coming in will be getting. That is my commitments to them and their commitments to me. And I tell them that I sometimes share stories, and I say that they're always anonymous. And sometimes I even change gender or an age so that they're really anonymous. And then I always ask my clients for permission, and that's a part of the intake process. Yes. Okay. So this last one, key number 4, saving time and money. As I alluded to at the beginning, this is the one that has been the hardest and the most elusive to me, but I've finally figured it out. And I can't wait to share some of what I've learned in more depth with the people who move forward with me. The first thing that I've put into place is profit-based bookkeeping. Yes. And so what was important about this first was to separate my personal and my business expenses. And it was amazing to me that I had not, for years and years, I hadn't done that. And I needed to separate them both in terms of bank accounts. I'm still a sole proprietor. I'm not LLC. So according to the taxes, that's all lumped together still. But in my own bookkeeping, they're very separate so that I see the impact on my business. I see how much I'm paying myself. And I needed to get systems in place for that. And I so wish that I had done that with my very first, check for $75 for the hour that a client gave me. So having systems for that and being able to generate for yourself a P&L, a profit and loss statement, has been a game changer for me. And again, that didn't even start happening until about 3 years ago. So I also would not have been successful if I didn't have systems for companionship. And I see all the entrepreneurs around me, they struggle until they figure out how to be less lonely and how to actually have accountability. So by getting a virtual assistant, this has helped me a great deal. And even, at the very beginning, I would have thought I couldn't afford a virtual assistant. But you know what? There are so many options out there. In fact, Time, etc. It's called Time ETC is an example of a great online agency, I guess is the way to talk about it. And I think you'll discover early on that if you can just offload a few tasks, but if you know it's being offloaded to an assistant, then you have accountability, right? Because you have to think it through before you get it to the assistant. You're also practicing skills in delegating. And I have had trouble with that. There's a knock on my door, but I think I'm going to let it go. I have had trouble learning how to delegate. And in fact, with my current office team, Michael is online right now. Being distracted by the doorbell, but I'm just going to have to let them go. I'll get them in 10 minutes. Michael's an example of how I have been having to exercise my own skills in helping him be successful by learning to delegate. And if I had done that earlier with a virtual assistant on just a few hours a month, I would be better at that now. And then there's also co-working. And I have, let's see, do I even have a picture of her here? I do, there she is, there's Lisette. Here you see Lisette and I, and we meet several times a week. She's in the Netherlands, there I am. And we work for about 4 hours together. And it's rather amazing to be able to have some accountability. It's kind of like a cubicle, that's the word, cubicle buddy. So it's important to be able to have those kinds of co-working buddies. And I do hope, and I do structure the training so that you all get to know each other really well and can provide some of that accountability for each other. And then there's also having the right tech tools available to you so that you're saving time. The text message scheduler is an example that I brought up, but there are many others as well that you want to get in place immediately to help you now, so you don't have to research it later when you're desperate. Just want to look at this. You'll be getting the slides, by the way, for this, so you'll be able to see all these lists later. But let me just see. Yeah, you know what, I didn't mention this, but systems for taxes. We'll talk about this a bit in the training. But it's really hard as an entrepreneur to be able to know how much you need to be paying, taking out of your taxes each year, because you know the numbers that I've been giving you, by the way, like $80,000, that's gross, that's not net after taxes, and it's important to be able to keep that in mind. Also tracking your contacts and clients. I kick myself. I do not have a list anywhere of every single client I've ever worked with. And so if I wanted to check in with them to find out how they're doing now, 7 years later, I can't do that because I don't have that list. And I think I could have also generated a lot more income for myself by checking back in with clients a year or two after they've left me. So I hope you see here that I don't want to overwhelm you with a list of all these systems, but there are just teeny tiny things that you can choose to do, like starting a spreadsheet where you put every client who you take on, that can make a world of difference for you later and create the ability to, as we see in this picture, you know, be able to bounce here in the middle of the trampoline because all of your systems are in place equally. Larry asked how long I've been doing my business, and it's been about 7 years, or maybe longer. I need to actually look back to keep track. And if you haven't seen the very first video in the whole series, Larry, in fact, Michael, can you make a note in one of the upcoming emails? It would be great if we could just in the PS have a list of the links to the videos that came before, if people would like to see them all in one place. That would be probably super helpful. Also, this picture here, I just wanted to explain my face with this money clarity is fun. I realized that my bookkeeping wasn't going to actually happen with any regularity until I made an ARC system for it. So those of you who know the ARC system from Staples, those are the rings. Because I'm such a hands-on oriented person, created this wonderful book, and now I do my bookkeeping regularly, and I didn't used to. So it's amazing, really amazing what works. So here's the overview. For me, the sky's the limit looks like all of these words. And then if I from day one establish like the teeny tiniest part of systems that teach awesome content, ensure results through service delivery, get lots of clients through marketing, and save money and time through administrative systems, that's what will help you be able to trust, to build a strong foundation for yourself and be able to trust your growth. And in fact, I actually was very clear that I was keeping my business small because I didn't have the bookkeeping systems in place, as an example, and I felt overwhelmed if I was going to be making more money about tracking that. So we all have our blind spots in that way, but I have just been much happier ever since I've had all of this going on. And it's one of the ways that I structure my training program, is to be able to provide as many of the first steps as possible. So this is the last slide. And then I realize I've taken all our time talking, but I will stay on to do any questions that come up for you. I don't know if you've seen this on Facebook, this picture here, like success, what people think it looks like, a straight line, but what it actually looks like, which is this curly Q of a line. And so my final suggestions to those of you who are on whether or not it makes sense for you to move forward in my training program, get in action now. Don't just plan. Sometimes we can stay in the planning stages for ages, but get in action. Here's the now. And then do it incrementally. Like, don't scare yourself by biting off more than you can chew. Find the smallest possible thing that you can do with some amount of ease, and then do that, which is basically what academic coaches are asking students to do, right, with their schoolwork. I'm asking you to apply that to yourself. Give yourself permission to be imperfect. And in fact, it's the imperfect action that is in many ways will guarantee inevitable success more than waiting for the perfect action. Let yourself play and do so publicly so that you're practicing visibility at whatever increment feels right to you. And then remember, it will be slower and messier than you think. And I've seen that with the folks who come into my program. Some of them end it with not as many clients as they'd hoped they'd get, or life got in the way. Like a mother who needed to be moved into a nursing home, I'm remembering, or actually a wife dying. Not, hopefully that's the worst that will happen to the folks in the training program, but life is going to happen. And if we get the systems in place, life can still happen and we will make our incremental progress. So I hope that is helpful for everybody. We have a few more case studies coming out by email, and then I will be available on Wednesday of this week at 5 p.m. Pacific in a regular Zoom room, not a webinar, where you will have access to your voices so we can have a more casual chat. I will spend a little bit of that time, maybe 15 minutes, actually walking you through what my training program looks like if you're interested or if you're even remotely curious, so that you can imagine whether that's a better fit for you. And the pricing is a little complicated because there are different ways in, so we'll talk about that on the Wednesday call as well. And then we'll use the rest of our time just for open-ended connecting and answering questions or sharing stories. I might have a few folks on who have come through the program already and can answer questions either about the program or just about academic coaching in general. So I hope you're able to make it then as well. I want to officially end us. Because it is 6:01 my time, but I see I have 2 questions in the Q&A, so I'm going to stay on and answer those. And if more pop up in either the chat or the Q&A, I have both of them open. I'm happy to answer them for another 5, possibly 10 minutes if they're coming on. So thank you all, and I hope to see you Wednesday, as well as in our one-to-one sessions. That's right, because you still have an opportunity to sign up for those as well. So Larry asked if I tutor for class subjects, and I do not. Well, that's not exactly true. Writing is my thing, and I love writing, and I very much enjoy working with kiddos on their essays, and I find that, the executive function issues, that's part of the brain, that students have are often reflected in their writing, so it can be really good practice to work on writing when we're working on systems for executive function. So that's what I do. And I think it's just fine for those of you who have a special sauce in math or some other subject to also provide tutoring. And I think it's actually very exciting for people to have provide tutoring and have all of the academic coaching pieces and understanding brain-based learning pieces, because then the tutoring will not create dependency. And I see a lot of tutors creating dependency in their clients, and I'm on a mission to change that. I do hope actually to have a course specifically for tutors at some point. Larry also asked if I sell any written materials, and no, not at this time. I do sense that a book is coming if I only have time to write it. So probably within the next 2 or 3 years, you'll start seeing more and more written materials. But right now, it's just my online courses that are my materials. And then also the free materials are, if you're new to me, my Wednesday video with tips from my client sessions are there. All right. Anything else anybody wants to know about any of these systems that I shared? You could even just put in the chat, if you're still here, you could put, how are you feeling? Like, was this helpful? Was this overwhelming? I'd be really curious to hear how all this information landed on you, because I am trying to show up with as much honesty as I can about what this is like for people. And I do want you to be inspired, because I don't want anyone to run screaming from this idea of being an academic life coach. The need is definitely there out in the world. But I do want to balance the inspiration with the realism, right? And too much marketing sells results that aren't actually realistic. And so I want to make sure that I'm not falling into that trap, because I would not feel in integrity if I did. Oh, Anne, she said, just made me realize how far behind she is, but she's still in it. You are not behind. I think it's just a matter of creating structure from all of your experience now. And that's one way to do it, right? Is to have a ton of experience, which is what I did, and then to create the structure that you need from that experience. And so I think that's the direction that you have taken, Anne. Pam said you just tuned in, but are glad to see my authenticity. Good, I'm great. And I'm glad. I'm great. I am great. And I'm glad. And there will be a recording of this coming out tomorrow. Michael will get it out to you also. You can watch it if you missed some pieces. Great. Yeah, Michael said very informative for someone not in the field. Lots of information that is useful in many entrepreneurial fields. Yes. And actually, a lot of this information, right, I got in my marketing training program that was for people in lots of fields. And I did the hard work of funneling it and squishing it and turning it into something that people in our field of academic coaching that makes sense to them, so that they don't have to do the hard work that I did, because it took me 3 years in this training program. And it was really kind of crazy making to figure out, like, how do I sell to a parent and a kid? Like, that's hard. You know, all the other coaches just are selling to the person who's going to take their coaching. So how do we do that? So that's just one example of how I had to tweak some of the best practices that I learned from the field. Rose asked if I can share an example of a package next time, or at least the framework. Yeah, that's a good idea, Rose. I'll try and do that. Maybe Michael, actually, you can send me an email about that, right? It's easier than me writing it down right now. But I'll just say, Rose, I'll just verbally give you an example that my packages include a semester's worth of coaching, weekly sessions, usually half hour or 50 minutes, and the online course, The Anti-Boring Approach to Powerful Studying, and access to me on Thursdays from 5:30 to 6:30 for office hours. That can also be a study hall, and unlimited text and email, and, you know, a few other things as well that are actually, I mean, basically, if you want a framework, I want you to just think through what are the things that you do anyway, even if you're charging by the hour, and just make those visible to the clients and put that into the package. Because there's a lot of hidden tasks that we do that I did not want to be hidden. I wanted them to know I was doing these things. Like, I'm happy to have a conversation with a therapist, with a student's therapist. And I don't want to charge for that, because I just hate, like, I hated bookkeeping, like, you know, or invoicing, I should say, like my time in half hour and hour increments. So I just wanted to charge enough that I felt like I'm being paid so well that I'm happy to show up for a conversation with a therapist without worrying about charging for it. In fact, I'm going to 2 schools next week to meet with the special ed department, and I'm happy to do that because the family is paying me well enough that I'm just not even thinking about how much time I'm spending. It's the result the client needs, and I do it. End of story. So those are some examples of some packages. Dominic said that it's helpful to know that there are systems that can be created, to help a whole process. Good, I'm glad that's helpful. Marnie asked, can we sign up for the individual if we are already signed up? I don't know what you mean by that question, Marnie. Maybe you could put that into the chat or back into the
I think she means, can she sign up for the live consultation?
Oh, you know what, Marnie? I would prefer then that you just come to the office hours, which you have access to, although I will not be in office hours this week because of spring break, because I would like to save those strategy sessions for people who are considering the program. And then if there are any left over afterwards, you could use that, but it would be easier just for you to show up to office hours. Yes, and she said that makes sense. That's why I didn't sign up. Dominic asked how much I charged when I started. When I worked for the organization, Student Organizational Services, I was paid $30 an hour for my services. And when I started working for myself, I started charging a sliding scale, I think. I think the early sliding scale was $50 to $75. And then I shifted from there. But there's just no way, at least in the Bay Area, to make a livable wage on 50 to 75 hours or dollars an hour without killing yourself, I think, and working a million hours. And Larry was asking how big is the marketplace for this? It depends on what you mean by for this. I think that, there are just a lot of families in need, a lot of families with kids with learning differences who are really drowning, either learning differences or some emotional issues that make it hard for them to be at school. And those families are desperate for support. And there's a lot of that out there. I would say the marketplace is smaller for just your average student who is doing well but could do better. That market is also out there, but the real market is for the students who are not being served by our current very not functioning, I believe, education system and need extra support. All right, it is 6:10 and I have a dinner date with a friend in 20 minutes, which I want to get off to. So I'm so grateful for you all being here. Please feel free to send me other emails. If there's an isolated question, Gretchen@GretchenWegner.com. And otherwise, I will hopefully see some of you all on Wednesday for some other questions. And perhaps, yes, Rose, maybe I'll have a package right up to show you as well. We'll see. Okay. Take care, y'all.